Today I'm going to show you how to drip acclimatize your new arrivals. Now this is not the only way to do it, but it's a way that I choose to do it for certain species that are a little bit more sensitive for certain changes in water chemistry. If you want to know a different way, check the link in the description and it will take you to a web article all about another method of acclimatizing your new arrivals. Today I've got some shrimp in a box that's just arrived and I'm going to add them into my new aquarium here. Shrimp are one of those species that are really sensitive to sudden changes in water chemistry, so drip acclimatizing is perfect, especially when they're posted to you, because they're not necessarily going to be from the same water chemistry as your local tap water. So let's unbox them and get the process started. So before I even go near the bag and open it up to check the water chemistry and things like that, I'm just going to leave them floating there for a good 15 minutes to acclimatize to the light, but also to acclimatize to the temperature. Because they've been in a sealed dark box in cold warehouses and all sorts of things, and vans overnight, and they're going to be a bit stressed and not used to it. So just letting them acclimatize to a couple of things first before I start working on the water chemistry as well through the drip acclimatizing. While I wait for the shrimp to just fully acclimatise to the temperature, I just thought I'd quickly show you what sort of equipment you need to do this process, because this is the perfect opportunity to go around and gather up what you need from wherever you store it. So first up, you're going to want some sort of bucket or jug to pour the shrimp out of the bag into, because you need to position them lower than your aquarium to allow a siphon to form. I'm going to use a jug because there's not much water in that bag, and if I was to pour all of that into a very large bucket, the water would be not even covering the whole bottom, I don't think, so they won't be fully submerged. So I'm going to put them in this jug, but I'm going to put the jug in the black bucket to keep them dark and sort of feel a little bit more secure. Next up, you need some way of forming a siphon from your tank down into the bucket, and I've got a long piece of airline. With the airline, you then need a way of restricting the flow to form a drip rather than a continuous stream. Now, lots of people will just simply tie a knot, and you can just tighten that knot and restrict the flow further and further. Personally, I like to have a little bit more control over it, so I have a tap halfway through my airline, which I can just turn open and close to restrict the flow rate. So that's how I'm going to do it today, but you can just tie a knot if you don't have one. You can also get airline clamps, which will just slowly compress around the outside of your tube, and that will restrict water flow as well. So plenty of options for you. Because this is a rimless tank, I need a way of securing the pipe to the tank. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a closed peg, which will just hold it in place, and another closed peg, which I can clip onto the bucket to stop it from falling out. You don't have to use a closed peg, there's lots of options, but as long as you've got a way of securely fastening it to your tank and bucket, it will work perfectly fine. Now, the last thing I like to use when I'm drip acclimatizing is a TDS pen. So this actually records temperature and TDS, and it's going to be really helpful in estimating the length of time that I need to drip acclimatize these for, because I can check the TDS of my tank, which is the total dissolved solids, and I can check the TDS of the water in the bag. If they're very far apart, that means the water chemistry is very different between the two, and I'm going to take a lot longer in terms of drip acclimatizing them. If they're very similar, which I'm hoping they will be, I can do it a bit faster, and this should be done within about an hour. And as you build up experience, you will get better at estimating the time it's going to take. So in this bag, there are 13 wine red panda shrimp, and they are absolutely stunning. I'm really excited to see them in the tank. And I got these from Tim and Sarah, and they very kindly packaged them brilliantly so they survived the journey super well and don't look that stressed. So now the shrimp have acclimatized, I'm going to open up the bag and pour them into the jug, like I said. So just going to grab them out of here. It's always important just to check that your bag is fully empty, because shrimp and any small fish can get stuck in little corners. But it looks like they've all transferred out nicely, so that's perfect. And then just going to pop one end of the airline into the tank. And now I know some people don't like doing this, but I find with the airline it is the easiest way, is just to give it a quick little suck to start the siphon. And I've got a spare bucket down here that I'm going to start the siphon into. And I can adjust the flow rate without pouring loads of water into the shrimp. So I'm just going to dial this down to a slow drip. And attach it to the edge of the bucket. You can just about see the shrimp are in the bucket at the bottom there. Looking good. And now I've got the drip started, I'm going to check the TDS of the water. So let's pop that in there. There's reading about 142, 143 ppm. And now I know that is actually quite a lot higher than my tank, which I'll just check now to double check. But my tank is usually about 50 ppm. Has twice as much total dissolved solids in than my tank, so I am going to have to take this a little bit slowly. So with that difference of TDS, I am going to leave them to drip for at least an hour and a half. I'm going to routinely pop in and check that 1, the bucket isn't overflowing, 2, the tank level hasn't dropped so low that the filter is causing a problem and the plants are drying out, and 3, to check on the TDS and regularly monitor it to see how quickly it's adjusting. So I don't want it to be too fast, but I also don't want it to take all day. So I can make fine adjustments using the tap when I need to. So just coming down from my desk, and let's check the TDS of the shrimps now. And they're now down to 90 parts per million. So they're getting closer to what the tank is at. A little bit longer, I think, and we will be good to go. So I'm going to carry on with my desk work, and I'll be back. So the shrimp have now finished their acclimatization. The water that they are in is very similar to the water that the aquarium has, and that will just make any transition as smooth as possible. So it's now time to catch them out and transfer them across, because we don't know what was in their water. Obviously, they've been shipped overnight, so there's going to be a bit more ammonia and waste products in there, which we don't want to add into the planted aquarium. So first thing to do is to remove the peg and to remove the pipe from the water. Now this pipe is going to stay full of water while it slowly drips out. To speed that process up, we can just open that tap up and let the water flood out. Otherwise I'm going to drip water all over the floor, and that is not a sensible idea. The shrimp were shipped with some green plastic, which I'm now going to remove to make catching them easier. And then I can just go in with a small net and try and catch them as best as I can. I'm going to release them as low down as I can, because there are fish in this tank and I don't want them to see them as food. They shouldn't do, they are big enough. But it's just a precaution I always take when introducing shrimp. So I've got a jug of dechlorinated water that I'm just going to slowly add into the aquarium. The tank has now been topped up, and I'm going to leave the shrimps to settle in with the lights off for an hour or so. They're looking really good and settled in straight away. They haven't hidden. They're just grazing on the sand and the wood here. And then I'll come back and take some close-up footage of them to share with you at the end of this video. So that is how simple drip acclimatizing really is. Hope you found it informative. Let us know in the comments what your method of choice is for acclimatizing your animals. And if there's anything that you do slightly differently when using drip acclimatizing, let us know as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll speak to you soon.